Ah, welcome. Welcome. It's FanFic. Say it with me.
FanFic.
FanFic Friday! Away. We were being accompanied by Tyler, my husband, my co-host, and Julian, the lovely artist of our FanFic Friday backdrops. Always fucking pulling through. This piece we have right here is Pokemon Trainer Gwen, and a Gwenaroar. Gwen has infected almost every kind of species now. There's not much left, but something about containment might be involved in next week's Gwen. But we'll get to that at some point. But if you couldn't tell, this week you guys voted for Pokemon, and all I could say for looking for a Pokemon fanfic was actually tedious. Cause let's just say Pokemon fans are freaks.
Weird.
They're fucking weirdos. Cause we originally wanted a Cynthia. We wanted a Cynthia fanfiction, but everyone we found was her fucking kids.
Well, logically, that would
So like, so there's fucking other characters that are adults Cynthia could get it on with. Her fucking Lucario, if you wanted to be basic, but like it was actually like really disappointing because I was really looking forward to a Cynthia fucking fanfic, but we couldn't find one where she wasn't fucking kids. So we had to settle for Hilda, the fucking Gen 5 protagonist, if you pick female, but apparently she's in the Alolan region. She fucking. Well, also, another thing is we had to edit this one too because there was some vague mention that she was a teenager, and we decided that wasn't okay. So our beautiful editor Julian went through and made her not a teenager.
Wow, Julian's the editor and artist now.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow, that's fucking wild. That Julian's a double role.
Good job, Julian.
Double roll, right? Fucking give a round of a jazz snaps for fucking Julian. So this is the third time now Julian has done both things. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna put up a help wanted sign on my fucking Twitter if anyone wants to be an editor for our fanfictions. Maybe. And I digress. So as I said, there was a special surprise with this fanfiction Friday, and we're reading 2 in 1. So, the second one is actually, we found, is going to be the first one we read, and it was a stupid little one that I could not, like, literally fucking, like, pass it up.
There's no way to dumb it down.
Narration, so there's not going to be any kind of, like, character thing, so, honestly, that's it. It's just going to be, like, a joke read. I don't know if we'll count tallies for it, but if you want us, if you want us to, like, if you really want to be critical. But the first one I couldn't pass up because I was reading through the tags, and it was literally constricted by a snake, but in a sexy way. That literally was just too funny not to pass up. That was like, alright, we're gonna read that. But it was really short, so thankfully I found another one, and it was involving Incineroar and our lovely lady here.
Yeah, for some reason.
Yes. But we've made sure to take the necessary precautions to not end up like a reaping fanfic. So everything in these fanfictions is that of your, I don't know, interpretation. If you like that, I guess if you want to get like strangled by a snake or fucked by an Incineroar.
I think we've mentioned reaping like in the past too, like fucking fanfics too. So it's just
That's
like
a good idea.
It's a kind of a gag now because of the whole fucking the reaping podcast. We just kind of like make fun of her and everyone because like she's the reason this happened. only thing we got to be thankful about that bitch. She's the reason we have Fanfic Friday because if Travis didn't make fun of her, if Travis didn't make fun of her fanfiction, we wouldn't have Fanfic Friday. So thank you, Travis, and thank you, you insidious bitch that needs to burn in the pits of hell. Anyway,
Amen.
I believe we are done our little intro phase. I don't think we need to refresh everybody each stream of the rules. We don't have anybody shit-faced, so we're not going to have an incident like with Travis yelling at us that we deserve tallies. I will admit though that I guess I kind of did not remember my character, so I humbly took one tally.
I wouldn't say it
However,
was humble.
shut up, bitch.
You fought for that one.
I did because it wasn't fucking fair, but I took it anyway.
Hey, stay on the topic. Stay on the topic.
So as a little editor's note, this is all narration, no dialogue. This is also interesting because the writer of this one's anonymous, so we can't really give credit. So it's
Or maybe their name is
spellbound.
quite literally anonymous, but I couldn't
It's like the
tell.
Yeah,
fucking
maybe the anonymous group.
we are anonymous. So this first one is spellbind. Oh shit, I'm stupid. I said I'd take one, right?
Yeah, I got
Yes.
Okay, so
I have
alright.
4.
So I don't know why I'm clearing my throat. I'm gonna be reading it in a normal voice because it's all narration. But we're gonna get into this first one. A little funny, right? All right. I don't know if I should like go away from my PlayStation so we don't hear it as loudly. I'm gonna go sit on my bed real quick. Hi, kitties. All right. Spellbind by Anonymous on Archive. He shouldn't have thought about it so late at night. The fact that he had a friend who loved him back. Of course he didn't regret choosing Snivy. Black could never regret that. But he had wondered about vine whips and, well, thinking about it now, he was feeding the strange gnawing curiosity in his gut, giving him a crumb of what he wanted.
Snivy used his vines like perfectly ordinary appendages, picked things up with them, made brisk, flicking gestures, coiled one around his trainer's arm once while they were just climbing a hillside, and the creaking tight grip sent a thrill through more of Black's body than he knew he had.
He had dreams about it. Imagine the swelling motions of never-ending vines around him, tightening and slithering around each other. He was fairly sure he shouldn't have liked it.
One time, Servine woke him up and hummed a worried note. It was midnight dark, with tree-filtered moonlight shaping the outline of Servine's sleek body. All alone in the night with his Pokemon, Black couldn't explain the racing of his blood or the way Servine's calm stare only made it race harder.
He said it was nothing, just a dream, but thanks, Servine, he felt better knowing his buddy was there. Servine stared a while longer at the time. Black thought his excuse was just a lame excuse, and he tried, to get back to sleep.
They explored more and more mountains. Servine kept using his vines to lift fallen logs out of the way, to test bridge boards, to lift lemonade cans and sip with a smooth grace, and to coil grip around Black's arm, winding up on his elbow. Once to lift him up over a ledge, with vines thick around his middle, feet dangling and stomach flopping deliciously. Black wasn't sure he regretted it anymore. No, he could admit it after these months. He loved and trusted his friend, whatever that happened to mean.
They camped out one night, on a late summer night with more summer promised in the wind. Sephiroth sat, which, like usual, he was a beautiful shape in the firelight, a proud arched curve of white belly that Black must have looked at too long. He must have given himself away, because the next thing he knew, a vine snaked under his jacket collar, and he was reacting far too warmly in the belly.
He said his friend's name, startled, and looked up into littered red eyes. Superior hummed a languid answer, running vines under his clothes and over his goose-flesh skin.
It must have been obvious, Black thought. All this time, all this getting to know each other and caring so hard, he smiled, and he asked if Superior had wondered too.
His answer was the rustling of scales on fallen leaves and the swallowing motion of muscle-hard snake coils, and Superior's eyes never leaving his. His own breathing got loud in his ears, wet panting as more of the vines appeared, tugging and unzipping his clothes, more or less out of the way. Superior drifted out of his line of sight, laying heavy and powerful over his shoulders. One more cinch of muscles and Black wrapped tight in his Pokemon, shivering at the forked tongue on his neck. He couldn't tell if he cried out. He was locked inside his head, double-bound in fantasy and reality, taking vines in his hands and squeezing them back.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Superior's voice thrummed through him, smug as always, but kind as summer's shade, and Black felt a solid presence that could only be another cock against him. Two cocks, splaying apart to stroke Black's hot need between them. Snake physiology, he thought on the fleeting scraps of his mind, What an incredible friend! He could gloriously barely breathe, beginning a rhythm of blinding friction. Black arched as much as he could move, hips spasming in time. Glickness spread down his cockhead onto Sephiroth's twin lengths. Their thrusting held rust between two bodies, their vines extended, creaking longer and probing farther, pushing his blockers away and caressing his balls, and cupping at the flesh of his ass. But he couldn't spread to allow them more because he couldn't move.
He chanted his friend's name, holding the squirming vines and shaking all over. Superior squeezed tighter. At the tingling edge of inability to breathe now, a dizzy, rich blackness encroaching on Black's vision. And Superior was purring a question that Black didn't understand. He was just gasping please and yes, and craning his head back so that tongue could flicker up the whole soft width of his throat. Something touched his face. The bud tip of a vine stroking. Black's world shrank to the thin shaft of his vision, and then suddenly it quaked. It was the trembling of Superior's muscles in one long wave, spiraling around Black and spilling wet into his lap. His friend hissed his pleasure.
And as Black pushed his hips forward, wanting the peak, he was suddenly free from the waist down, and smothered with cool air and cool vines. They bolted around his ankles, spread them slow, and locked him open, squeezing his cock with a grip no hand could match. Vines choked and stroked him. Vines traced his cleft and wormed over his belly. And with Superior murmuring in his ear, Black bucked and gasped and was utterly consumed.
He stared at the stars for what seemed like hours afterward. Might be a while before he could walk, he thought. He beckoned Superior to bring his head down close so Black could kiss his forehead.
Well, he did. A vine cold form around his arm, like it was ordinary now. And
Okay, that was like a stupid, like,
I
short
wanna
one,
fuck
but
a snake.
yeah, you just basically fucked a snake, and, like, we're not gonna talk about how he raised it from a kid to a fucking...
oh yeah.
so like, no one
Child
gonna
with
talk
lovers
about that,
control.
right? That I think that one was, like, indirectly groom.
That
'Cause
was kind of disappointing.
I thought it'd be funnier because the tag was fucking constricted by a snake, but in a sexy way. I'm upset Tyler didn't get the fucking part with the cock and balls. That would've been funny as fuck. Alright, do we want to get right into the fucking, the thick of it? The fucking thick of it?
Sure.
No, you want to
So-
quickly explain about me not doing a female voice?
Okay, so...
What do you mean? That's Hilda's voice.
Yeah, so basically, we know we have our character, so when a character we are given, we're supposed to make up a voice for that. If Tyler's voice doesn't seem very different than his ordinary voice, it's because now we've decided Hilda has that voice. Just, you know, that's her voice. That is literally her voice now.
There's nothing wrong with women having a deep voice.
Yeah,
God,
no,
I mean,
nothing wrong at all.
what the
So
hell?
like, Hilda's got a deep ass voice, and we're gonna roll with it.
Very
Also, another component was Tyler couldn't hit Taylor Swift notes, so he.
I don't know
I
how.
don't know. It's not... With
Oh,
people
man.
being awake, it would be incredibly awkward and bad if people walked in.
Okay, you know what? That's kind of fair. A very, very, very good cover of, like, I don't know. Actually, we can't sing Taylor Swift. I think we'll get copyrighted. So we're gonna
Do a
have to
parody.
fucking right. We're gonna have to have Tyler do us a fucking parody of Taylor Swift.
Oh, I think if it's a cover, you're okay.
All right, I guess so. We'll get Tyler gracing us with his female voice. That's for another day. Oh, so we have an editor's note for this one. A note from Julian at 7 in the morning. This is so explicit, my god, it just keeps going. I hate this. This is gonna be awful. I'm so sorry for choosing this. So, from this point on, I feel like everyone should, keep in mind that this is going to get very inappropriate.
You're really trying to make me laugh at this point, huh?
Oh. Also, this one isn't gay. It's straight. So.
Okay, yeah. So this is, we're not having a gay one. We thought about making it gay and just having, I don't know, a guy with a boy pussy, but Julian was perturbed at the thought. Because he was like, there's like vivid pussy shit. And I'm like, there's a guy with a pussy. There you go. He was like, no. No. But, we're also, I think, Julian's going to be doing the narration for the first half, and then we're going to be swapping off to my husband.
Julian,
Our
is it the
lovely.
yellow line?
Yeah, that's my last one, so after I read that one, then it's passed to you.
Alright, got it.
Okay, so our lovely main character Hilda will be played by none other than Tyler, and
With this beautiful voice.
and his supporting role in Cineroar will be played by yours truly, Mad Derpy
The
Husky.
rules are swapped, I swear to God.
It's like in reality I should be playing Hilda, but as a turn of events it's Tyler.
It'd be fun.
Alright, so a little bloopers. Tyler's reaction was like, wait, I'm the bottom? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, okay. Just like, well, no shame.
Clearly these roles should be flipped.
They should, but that we're subverting expectations here. So, Alolan Heat by Thirsty for Chicken on Archives of Our Own.
Chicken.
Oh, Thirst. I misread it. Thirst for Chicken, and the number 4. Tyler, take it away.
Hilda sighed happily as she felt the heat of the Alolan sun warm her skin, just as the cool ocean breeze caressed her.
This is exactly what I needed.
She practically spun in delight as she stood on one of the Alakala Island's pristine branches, feeling the sand beneath her feet and the warmth on the sun above. As much as Hilda loved her home region of Unova, she had saved it enough times to prove that. So too did she love the feeling of the tropical sun on her skin. Unova was many things, but certainly not tropical. Not like Unova, and beautiful as her home region was, it was sorely lacking in the features that made Alola such an attractive destination for Hilda.
Ooh.
With its rolling beaches of sand, clear blue waters, and warm tropical air. For all of Unova's majestic beauty, it was temperate at best, and usually relatively cool, only experiencing true heat during its summer months. Even then, Hilda was certainly... It had never been as hot as it was here in Alola. Enough that she could feel herself sweat just from being under the warm sun, a sensation that was largely alien to her and thus very welcome. Having thwarted Team Plasma's plans for world domination and successfully became champion of the Unova region, Hilda had left her home region a little over a week ago in search of yet another adventure, never one to sit around for very long. Now that she was here, however, the champion of Unova intended to take her time exploring the wonders of Alola as she took on the island challenge with a brand new set of Pokemon, hoping to once again become the very best just as she had back home. Hilda was likewise dressed appropriately for the island heat, having swapped her shoes for a pair of sandals and ditched her usual white top with its sleeveless black jacket to instead wear a flowery yellow Alolan shirt, unbuttoned in the front, to reveal her black bikini top, providing onlookers with a tantalizing gaze of her cleavage while leaving the rest of her torso bare. It fit well with the girl's trademark short shorts, already so tiny they hugged her thighs and greatly emphasized her rear, perhaps the most treasured of her bodily assets. Bodily assets.
Damn, bitch, you walk around like that?
Between the shorts and the bikini top, Hilda had noticed more than a few men looking at her out of the corner of her eyes since arriving in Lola. A fact she was quite proud of and hoped to take advantage of in the near future. Her stylish new sunglasses came in handy here, hiding her eyes and as she strolled the streets of the island towns, allowing her to discreetly check out some of the local men even as they checked her out in turn. With the warmth of the sun on her skin, the heat of the sand beneath her feet, and the familiar shiver of excitement running down her spine, Hilda definitely felt she had made the right choice in coming to Alola to begin her globe-trotting adventure. The young woman was shaken from her appreciation of the island heat. However, when she heard an animalistic growling in the distance, recognizing it as the sound of a Pokemon, Hilda smiled and immediately set off down the beach, already reaching into her bag for a spare Pokeball. The beach was wide and long, with great stones and rocks jutting out of the sand here and there, the perfect place for a Pokemon to hide. And Hilda was intent on finding and catching whichever one was making the sound she heard. The fact that she appeared to be completely alone on this particular beach would only make her job easier still. The brunette could already feel her adrenaline racing as she ran through the sand, kicking up grains and clouds of it behind her as she went. The growling sounded louder and more bestial the closer she got, and soon Hilda was throwing herself behind one of the giant stones jutting out of the beach in hopes of catching the Pokemon by surprise. With her back resting against the large stone and an empty Pokeball in her hand, Hilda slowly crept around to look at her prey, gasping when at last she spotted.
An Incineroar. Oh, what? It's
I
weird
needed to
because
drink, I'm sorry.
I mean, honestly, looking at it, is with an Incineroar, a wild Incineroar, you would think that would be for Hilda.
Oh, look, it's for Hilda
It
now.
was there. Oh, okay, so hold on.
I mean, I'll take a tally for cutting into it. If anything, just looking at it, it kind of looks like a Hilda thing.
Yeah, that's an exclamation point now.
It wasn't in quotation marks, so I didn't count it.
The council will decide after.
I had to take
Continue!
a drink break.
Alright.
The mighty red and black feline was in the center of what looked to be a ring of the giant jutting stones growling to itself as it practiced its fierce form of combat. The bipedal tiger roared as it punched and kicked and slashed, expertly tearing apart the stones around it quickly as it could, not stopping even for an instant to take a break or catch its breath. Its eyes darted from stone to stone as through sizing up its victims, and the belt of fire around its waist flared with life.
Roar!
Of course, you gotta make it.
The Incineroar shouted as it launched itself at one of the stones, quickly wrapping its muscled arms around it and then tearing it straight out of the ground in a tremendous display of strength. Hilda watched with wide eyes and excitement in her heart as the creature then lifted the jagged boulder above its head and threw it into the ocean with all its might, landing almost half a kilometer out and breaking the calm waters with a mighty splash.
I have to have it.
Hilda proclaimed breathlessly, her heart pounding in her chest and her bare legs already wobbly with excitement.
I need it, I need it, I need it.
Despite her short time in
Here we
Alola,
go.
Hilda knew wild Incineroar were remarkably rare, even in their earlier form as Litten, which could only speak to the strength and willness of the one before her. Its brute strength, its confident stride, the look of killer instinct in its eye, all served as a testament to the Pokemon's abilities, as Hilda knew, with her experience as a Pokemon trainer, that she could mold all of that into the most powerful Incineroar the islands of Alola had ever seen. She simply had to catch it. There was just one problem. Hilda didn't have any Pokemon nearly strong enough to face it. A true adventurer through and through, Hilda had deposited all of her Unova Pokemon upon arrival in Alola, and had set out creating a brand new team from the local Pokemon as part of her journey through Alola. While this certainly provided her with a challenge and encouraged her to learn more about the local Pokemon, it unfortunately also meant that none of the Pokemon in her party were particularly strong at the moment, most having only been caught a day or two prior. There was no chance that she could go up against this Incineroar, this fiery but honorable force of nature, with her current team.
But I can't let it get away.
Hilda hissed to herself as she continued to watch the beast train its body and mind to grow even stronger, quite literally wrestling with the surrounding environment as though at war with the world itself.
So, what do I do?
Luckily for Hilda, a solution presented itself only seconds later when the Incineroar finally came to a stop and had turned to look right at her. In her excitement, the teenager had crept out from behind her hiding place and was now half standing, half crouching, in the sand along the edge of the Pokemon's makeshift wrestling ring. Despite the heat of the sun and sand, Hilda felt her face grow pale.
Oops.
But Hilda's luck held out that day. Instead of growling angrily and unsheathing its murderous claws, as the girl had been suspecting, she watched on as the Incineroar instead faced her and snipped the air between them, unleashing a burst of steam from its nostrils. Then, as Hilda watched with both wonder and surprise, something long and hard began to emerge from between the Incineroar's legs, something so warm it practically radiated heat. Hilda knew what it was almost immediately. Having had quite a bit of experience with Pokemon anatomy during her adventure back in Unova, it was Incineroar's cock. Almost a foot long, thick, and oddly rigid. Pokemon's swollen dick pulsed with need as the Incineroar stared at the young girl crouching along the edge of its ring. With clearly only one thing on its mind, that's when Hilda remembered there was one more way to catch a wild Pokemon.
Oh my god.
Moving slowly to ensure she didn't startle or enrage the creature, Hilda stood back up on her own 2 feet and then slowly undid the zipper on her tiny denim shorts, blushing wildly all the while. A moment later, she took hold of both her shorts and the black bikini bottoms she wore underneath and then pulled them straight down to her feet, bending over slightly as she did, leaving her bikini top and an unbuttoned shirt on. Hilda then turned around and got on her hands and knees, presenting both her glistening cunt and her perfectly round ass to the Incineroar, which watched on with great interest and even greater arousal.
Come on.
Hilda called it soothingly. Smiling as she saw the Incineroar's cock pulse in anticipation, even going so far as to wriggle her naked ass a little in impatience.
I don't bite, big guy, and I know you want to.
The Incineroar was upon her almost immediately, and Hilda felt her eyes shoot wide open as she felt its fiery hot cock pressing against the slipped lips of her pussy. Now, this wasn't Hilda's first time with Pokemon. Such couplings were actually fairly common among trainers, particularly female ones, though it was a subject not discussed in polite society and largely kept under wraps in general. Hilda was no different in this regard. She had fucked several Pokemon during her journey, most commonly with the Pokemon in her own party as part of their bonding exercises, but also occasionally with wild Pokemon when she was in the mood for something rough and meaningless. As such, she was experienced in the matter, and knew what she was doing, even as she felt Incineroar push its fat cock inside her and bury itself deeper and deeper within her warm folds, but nothing had ever prepared her for this. Hilda cried out completely unintentionally. The scream practically pushed out of her lungs by the force with which Incineroar penetrated her from behind. The girl gripped as the hot sand beneath her uselessly, as she felt the Pokemon fill her up to the brim with its cock, her legs already shaking.
Fuck.
The Incineroar was not only unusually large for its size, both in length and girth, but it was also remarkably, incredibly, devastatingly hot. Like the hot, rolling sun or the baked sand beneath Hilda's hands.
This interaction is...
Incineroar's cock burned with tropical heat, as though liquid fire ran through it, singeing the inside of her body and sending wave upon wave of both pain and pleasure crashing over the young woman.
Masso.
Hilda could not feel herself begin to sweat already. Yet, and not yet from exertion, but from the sheer heat of the Incineroar sheathed inside her. When at last the Incineroar began pushing and pulling its monstrous cock in and out of Hilda's tight, young cunt, it did so with even powerful thrusts, each and every one of them practically pushing the air right out of the girl's lungs. Hilda held on for dear life and bucked her knees as best as she could to accommodate the fat intruder slamming himself into her tight little pussy, fighting to keep breathing as she dealt with the largest and hottest cock she'd ever taken.
Oh, Arceus.
Hilda whined aloud to no one, wincing and squeezing her eyes shut as she felt Incineroar's thrusts begin to pick up speed, each and every one of them feeling like a fiery club being shoved into her pretty little hole. Pokemon was already so deep that she could feel its barbed balls pushing up against the lips of her pussy, feel every ridge of its cock stroking her insides as it thrust in and out of her.
Oh.
Incineroar, meanwhile, was quite busy enjoying itself, having even more fun breeding with the beautiful human that it had practicing combat. The girl was amazingly tight, even painfully so, her little cunt wrapped almost agonizingly firmly around the Pokemon's rigid cock, her own juices doing little to ease the situation. The little whines and whimpers she made as it thrust in and out of her likewise only encouraged the ferocious tiger, leading it to smile proudly as the girl's entire body shook and shuddered beneath its weight. Wrapping its clawed hands around Hilda's hips and keeping its fierce eyes on the beautiful buttocks, the Incineroar soon began thrusting harder and faster still into the girl. illicitly only louder and more wonderful sounds as it drove itself deeper and deeper into her adolescent body. Slap, 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 slap. It wasn't long at all before the sound of naked human butt cheeks slamming against furred Pokemon hips began to drown out of the sounds of the ocean nearby. With Incineroar driving itself into Hilda with deep and powerful thrusts to cause her ass to bounce against its muscled hips. Every thrust caused the teenager's perfect ass to bounce and shake, only arousing the creature further, pushing it to go harder and faster, as though trying to claim sovereignty over the maiden's entire body.
No.
There you go. There you go. You got some time.
There you go. Hilda groaned loudly as she felt Incineroar slam itself into her pussy again and again and again, filling her with its heat and causing her entire body to writhe in dangerous and desperate pleasure. As painful as it was feeling the tiger's monstrous cock buried inside her, so too was it pleasurable, and as soon as the ecstasy of being so warm and so full began to overshadow everything else. Quote for quote by Hilda, yes, like that, fuck me, Incineroar, fuck me, continuing on as narrator, and despite being a wild Pokemon with no obligation whatsoever to do what the trainer asked of it, Incineroar obeyed, its sharp teeth glistening as it tightened its grip in Hilda and began slamming into her rougher and wilder still. Hilda screamed and cried beneath it, her hands and knees burning from the heat of the sand beneath her, and her kind practically shouting with pain and pleasure as the Pokemon's rigid cock drove itself in and out of her, forcing her to feel each and every inch of it as it stroked her burning insides. I'm gonna grab a drink.
Guess so.
Is this fun?
Ew.
The longer they fucked, the wilder the two became, and soon Hilda was giving as good as she got, urging her on not only with her words, but also with what little action she could do, while so completely and utterly dominated. She bucked her hips wantonly, nice word, meaning the Pokemon thrust for thrust, and moaning louder every time she felt it bottom outside of her. She arched her back and threw her head backwards in pleasure, even as her arms and legs shook uncontrollably. In her current position, Hilda's plump breasts likewise began to bounce back and forth majestically. Yes, majestically, that's the word they used. Covered as they were by the thin black bikini top, largely unseen by the Incineroar busy fucking her brains out, but providing a beautiful view nonetheless. How long Incineroar pounded only that the pleasure she felt from its size and heat inside of her drove all over her thoughts out of her mind. She was still there on the beach, of course, on her hands and knees with the huge Pokemon fucking her from behind. But she was also in the sky, in the water, in the heat of the sun itself, experiencing all of Alola as a representative of Alola itself experienced all of her skin. She felt the sweat on her skin, the slapping of her ass against Incineroar's thrusting hips, the bouncing of her breasts in time their sword-dead movements. She felt it all and more. So much her vision began to blur, and her body grew weak, and every nerve ending in her body shouted out at once. Come on, Tyler, make this one loud.
Is Tyler still here?
I'm not making it loud, you fuck.
Hilda moaned loudly and wantingly, that's happened twice. As she experienced her first orgasm since arriving in Alola. Her eyes roll like I can't see into the back of her head as her tongue lolling out of her mouth, and she fell backwards into the void of pure white pleasure. Ahigo girl, there you are. The girl's entire body shook and scrubbed as her orgasm tore through her, even as Incineroar continued to slam its monstrous cock in and out of her tightening cunt. For a wonderful moment, perfect moment, Hilda felt only heat and nothing more. I feel like that. Anyways, narrator. How much Incineroar truly understood about that was happening was unclear, but it was plainly obvious it recognized a female orgasm when it saw one, as the tiger grinned its proud and snarky grin upon feeling the human girl writhe and squirm on its cock. It fucked Hilda all the way through her orgasm, still enamored by her beautifully bouncing buttocks as it slammed into her again and again, driving itself deeper and deeper into the teenager's quivering womb. Such actions only seemed to lengthen the girl's orgasm, leaving her sweating and shaking weakly, barely clinging to consciousness. Indeed, When at last Hilda felt Incineroar pulled its fat cock out of her needy cunt, she had no idea how long it had been or what she had been doing for the last few minutes. All she felt was a sudden absence of the heat inside her, the loss of what had previously been stuffing her so warmly and wonderfully full. When at last she found herself able to actually turn her head, Hilda was mildly surprised to find her arms had given out and she was leaning face first into the sand with her ass in the air and her entire body covered in glistening sweat.
You stopped.
Hilda spoke weakly, looking back at the Incineroar as it stroked its fat cock, revealing it was positively covered in her girlish juices and literally steaming. A testament to the fire burning within.
Why?
The Incineroar merely looked right back down at the girl and smirked cruelly, still stroking its fat cock. That was when Hilda knew she was in trouble. The girl gasped as she felt Incineroar reach over her with its own free hand and then tear her shirt to threads, ripping off her bikini top shortly after, leaving her entirely naked save for the basketball cap and sandals. She gasped again for a moment, a little louder this time, and she felt Incineroar place its foot on the back of her head and force her back into the sand, thereby leaving her bent over with her ass in the air. Its free hand then took hold of Hilda's ass, spreading apart her wonderful cheeks in order to expose her puckered asshole, which proved to be the next destination for its monstrous cock. Hilda screamed, a mixture of both pain and pleasure bursting from her mouth as she felt Incineroar place the head of its fiery cock against her anus and then pushed until it was once again burying itself inside of her. Her entire body stricken right that the monstrous tiger forced itself into the rear, evidently intent on claiming the poor girl every way it could.
Oh, I see.
Just as Hilda had never experienced such a large and fiery hot cock in her pussy, so too had she never experienced anything ever slightly close to it in her ass. Tears burst from the girl's eyes as Incineroar forced her face into the sand and pushed inch after inch of its sweltering meat into Hilda's bowels, so delightful and dangerous warm that the champion of Unova was afraid she was going to burn into cinders right then and there. True to its nature, Incineroar didn't wait even an instant for Hilda to adjust to the sensation of having half of its fiery hot cock buried in her ass before it began thrusting in and out of her, the girth of it thick enough to keep her quivering cheeks spread so it could ream her as it pleased. It was tough going at first, with the teenager writhing and squirming in both pain and pleasure beneath the Pokemon, and her rectum squeezing tightly around its cock like a vice grip. But Incineroar was never one to give up, and that way, it and Hilda were quite alike. Despite the burning sensation consuming her ass and quickly spreading throughout the rest of her naked body, Hilda forced herself to once again begin bucking her hips with Incineroar's powerful thrust, her entire body shaking and her beautiful blood bouncing as she took more and more of the tiger's ferocious cock. Even with tears streaming down her face and the upper half of her torso forced into the baking sand, Hilda give as good as she got, not only taking her pounding like a good girl, but fighting to milk as much pleasure as she could out of it.
Yeah.
Hilda whimpered loudly into the beach, gripping the sand beneath her useless hand. She balked her girlish chest like a bitch in the heat. Incineroar's cock was so large as it sweltered that it felt like it was going to tear her poor ass apart. But Hilda reveled in the delicious mixture of pain and pleasure. Not yet, wanting nothing more in that moment than the Incineroar to fuck her ass like no one ever had and no one ever would.
Fuck, yeah, fuck me, fuck my hot ass. Make me yours, Incineroar. Fill my ass.
Whether Incineroar understood what Hilda was saying or not, it complied as though it did, slamming its cock into the teenager's bountiful ass harder and faster as she moaned and groaned into the sand beneath it. She bucked her hips and arched her back and whimpered beautifully, arousing the Pokemon even further, encouraging it to demolish the girl's ass and claim her feet for its own, now and forever. Soon enough, Hilda was shaking and writhing about its agonizing ecstasy beneath Incineroar as it drove its cock deeper and deeper into her burning bowels, filling her with a monstrous heat. The girl desperately reached back as best as she could, as though trying to grab hold of Incineroar's hips and spread her own cheeks further, but her arms merely flopped around uselessly, every nerve ending in her body consumed by the heat and pleasure. Thankfully, the sight of the Pokemon trainer twitching and shaking beneath it gave Incineroar an idea, one it implemented presently. One moment, Incineroar's foot was on the back of Hilda's head, forcing her face into the sand. The next moment, she was free, and she felt herself being lifted out of the sand as Incineroar grabbed both of her useless arms with its own clawed hands and yanked her back up. forcing the girl to arch her back almost painfully hard as it continued to drive its cock in and out of the quivering anus. With Incineroar holding her up in the restraining arms at the same time, it was able to push its cock even deeper still into the tightening bowels, forcing more moans of pain and pleasure to come bursting out of her mouth as it fucked her rotten. Good exposition, Tyler. Good exposition. Hilda moaned loudly as she felt Incineroar pound into her with renewed vigor. Its clawed hands were wrapped around her arms as it held her up. Her face and breasts were covered in sand, but soon even this was being shaken loose by the ferocity with which the Pokemon was reaming her ass, burying itself deeper and deeper into her intestines.
Just definitely shit on that.
Oh, Arceus harder. Fuck me harder, Incineroar. Fuck my hot ass harder.
It's not very hot, Hilda, continuing on. As Incineroar obeyed once again, its pace growing quicker and more ferocious with every thrust. Hilda's freed breast began to bounce up and down wildly and wantonly. Again, what the fuck? Proving a wonderful show for anyone lucky enough to have been watching. The girl screamed and cried in pleasure as she bucked her hips and arched her back, her ass bouncing against Incineroar's thrusting hips, as her naked tits juggled up and down so hard that they hurt. But in the absolute best way possible. Incineroar growled dangerously, grinding its sharpened teeth against one another as it continued to demolish Hilda. It was buried to the hilt inside, its cock so swollen it was painful. With Hilda's tight ass wrapped perfectly around it, it merely gripped her arms faster, slammed into her harder, forcing the girl to throw her head back and moan loudly.
She's gotta die.
Each and every inch of Incineroar's
She threw it back.
cock into her ass, her tits bouncing those of a bitch in heat and begging for more. As a wop would once make, slap, 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 slap. As Incineroar's thrusts grew harder and more powerful, so too did the sounds of flesh slapping against flesh, drowning out all other sounds on the secluded beach. The tiger was pounding Hilda with all of its inhuman strength, using the arms it had thrown a boulder into the ocean with to hold her back as it thrust into her tight and burning ass as quickly as a rapid ash could run down a hill.
Oh, come on.
The teenager's ass bounced wildly and almost painfully hard with every thrust, and the girl unleashed moan after moan of ecstasy as it fought to finish her inside. Hilda began whimpering and moaning repeatedly. Fuck all the sense out of her. Her eyes were rolling into the back of her head, and her tongue was lolling out of her mouth, a higa mouth. Her entire body quivering in desperate need of the pleasure only this mighty tiger could provide.
Oh.
Just like that, Tyler. Just like that. Utterly restrained, with her entire body sweating and shaking, and with a powerful Pokemon forcing itself deeper, harder, and faster into her tight ass with each and every thrust. Hilda felt heat like she had never experienced before, both within and around herself, so hot she could feel herself losing control yet again. It was so good, so perfect, so hot. With one last cry of ecstasy, Hilda came for a second time since Incineroar first penetrated her, her empty pussy tightening around nothing as she felt Pokemon thrusting itself falls deep into the warm and welcoming ass. She writhed and squirmed and all but collapsed, held up only by the Incineroar's strong arms, her limbs going limp and her world going white.
This bitch got fucked to use a vegetable.
Hilda's second orgasm ultimately served as a catalyst for Incineroar's, and it wasn't long before it began pumping its rigid cock into her ass, ruffling and jerkily, as though running out of time. Finally, with one last roar of triumph, Incineroar buried itself into the hilt in the screaming teenager's adolescent ass and unleashed everything it had been holding back. For Hilda, Incineroar's orgasm was the icing on the cake of her own sexual experience, and what she enjoyed every bit as much as the monster firing its seed inside her. The girl sighed happily and quivered with pleasure as she felt stream after stream of fiery hot cream burst out of the Pokemon's cock and flood her tight bowels. She felt every drop of Incineroar's juices as they filled her ass to the brim, setting her body and mind aflame, burning her with a passion greater than she had ever imagined.
Fire.
Hilda had never before felt such heat, such wonderful heat, filling up each and every inch of her insides, and she moaned and whimpered as Incineroar's volcanic seed quickly began to overflow and come spurting and drooling out of her asshole, stuffed full as it was with the tiger's fat cock. Hilda was so lost in the heat and pleasure of the moment that she barely noticed when Incineroar finally pulled its softening cock out of her tender ass.
Lost in the sauce.
More of its seed With the Pokemon no longer supported her, Hilda collapsed into the sand, entirely naked, covered in sweat, burning inside and in and out, with boiling hot cum leaking out of her stretched out. Having done what it had to set up to do, Isidore was ready to turn and leave, but hesitated for a moment in order to savor the sight that its latest conquest beautiful, even though it had first found her. Hilda was even more so now, lying in the sand with a seed oozing out of her, completely and utterly exhausted. Her bare ass was just as tempting now as it was when Isidore first saw it, and it was only its exhaustion that kept it from leaning over the girl narrator, continuing, and entering her once again into yet another round. Again, it was only for a moment. Isidore hesitated, but a moment was all Hilda needed. Before the beast was even aware of what was happening, Hilda spun around as quickly as she could, quite a feat.
Nuh-uh, that's not real.
And tossed the Pokeball she had been hiding in the baseball cap. Isidore only had time to wind its eyes in surprise before it sucked in the Pokeball. Its form shrinking before it disappeared within. With Isidore gone, the Pokeball fell to the sand below. It rolled once, it rolled twice, it rolled 3 times. Ding.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Nuh-uh, nuh-uh, there's no fucking way, bro. Your entire lower body would just be fucking dead, man. She definitely had to go to a hospital.
Bruh, beast porn goes hard, dude.
Also, I like a further clarification of age. 18.
Yeah, I did not see that there was that many adjectives.
We fucking.
They're 18.
They are 18. They are 18. We made sure of that. Even emphasizing young adult early on, we made sure we are not reading some fucking gross pedophile fantasy.
That was just editing errors on my behalf. So I apologize for it.
But dude, I can't with this, bro. Tyler fucking just
I'm telling you, imagine if I could do it with a feminine voice.
I think we're just fucking, like, honestly, we're fucking, I think made it better is the fucking, just fucking Justin sighing.
But yeah, wellness check after the fanfic. Justin, how are you feeling?
Actually pretty good. I'm not very phased by it, and I didn't laugh. That was my main goal. You tried to break me, and in fact, it didn't happen.
I almost heard you break once. I fucking heard almost your tone shift.
That was in the beginning.
Actually, I did give Justin a tally just for one thing, but it is nitpicky on my behalf, so I will go over it. There was one line where, again, it mentioned the baseball cap, but Justin said basketball, and that...
Dun dun dun! Justin,
so
Justin,
if you want to count,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I went back and made a comment just saying, Justin, you said fucking basketball, you dumb fuck.
I'm reading a shit ton, alright?
That was actually a lot. Like, holy fuck. I'm so. You know
I
what? I'm a
didn't
little
think it'd be that
disappointed. I just had the roar sensually into the fucking mic.
I was gonna say, I was gonna cut him off, like, in one section, just saying, Kyle, do you want to read? But it's just funny hearing you fucking
That was my only purpose, is the fucking roar. Fucking, oh my god, dude, that was fucking... I did not like the vivid imagery that was put into my head.
Hey, Kyle.
What?
Could you imagine if I could give it my all into the moons?
Like me, I would've.
If no
I
one
would've,
was here.
without a doubt.
If no one was here.
Tyler, I would've fucking pissed my pants. I think I would be like 100% with you. I probably would've pissed my pants.
I'm being 100% with you right now. If no one was here, I would've fucking...
Bro, I'm
I
keeping that in mind for
shouted
next
that
time.
shit.
I'm keeping it for next time.
Yeah.
So Travis, I looked at chat, said Gwen Cineroar, and all he said was, huh, after? I said, my fucking ears and head hurt. Addie, boiling, in all capital fucking question mark. She had to have gone to a hospital. There's no way. Bro,
Also, like,
no prep.
yeah,
This bitch got fucking railed by, like, this monster cock. She would have died. She would have fucking died.
Gotcha.
Dude, that's a fire-type Pokemon. Boiling, I would be worried.
Dude, her insides must have been fucking, like...
What, like magma? You got like magma?
Right? Like, why did I have to emphasize boiling? Like, that shit must be burning her insides. I heard intestines. There's no way he didn't get shit on his dick. There's no way. She was totally prepared to have anal. There was, yeah, the shit evaporated off of his cock.
She's gonna need a full restore.
Bruh. She gonna need a full restore. I just read that. I thought you were just saying that. Like, what the fuck, bro? And I like how they were like, oh, she's like doing this on a beach. It's like, so nobody realized this bitch getting railed by an Incineroar on the beach screaming. Like, it was very obvious. This was painful for her.
She's gonna need a full restore.
They mentioned in the beginning that she was all
burn
alone,
heal.
but somehow that no one else would hear her.
Yeah, just magically they all disappeared for plot convenience.
Max survived round 4.
Dude, like, and honestly, I have to fucking say, the inconsistency, there's no way she would have been able to just quickly been like, wha-cha, with her fucking Pokeball. That bitch's lower body, like, she must have, like, a bunch of shattered bones. There's no fucking way.
She really wanted that Incineroar.
I am actually very disgusted that they even vaguely suggested it wanted to go for another round. I'm actually disgusted. I am... After hearing that, the thought that that thing wanted to go for another round is truly disgusting. That Incineroar.
I told you, monster porn goes hard, dude.
I think Incineroars are. I feel like this has put them. This is why they're top tier in Pokemon, because they're actually very dangerous. They'll fuck you to death. They'll fuck you to death. That's not something I thought I would have to say about a Pokemon, but here we are. Let's see what she gonna need 99 max revives. But I don't. That was really gross. I'm not even gonna lie. That was just very fucking gross. I guess it's like a little recap. Do we give Tyler a tally, or are we just deciding not to because of given the circumstances? Yeah, he usually laughed right after his line, so that's why I don't think he needs a tally. But I was clarifying because you were nitpicking.
I only gave Justin one just because of wrong wording.
Yeah, the hip description did it for me. Travis said. Just what the fuck, bro? Why did it have to be so vivid?
People are into that shit.
What the fuck, bro? You know, at least in Incineroar, you know what? He practiced safe sex maneuvers. He didn't come in her pussy because he was afraid she'd have a bunch of Incineroar babies. Which actually would be eggs, because apparently Pokemon don't... They're like... They're not mammals. Which is confusing, but we're not going to get into Pokemon anatomy. The moral of the story is Incineroar didn't want her pooping out eggs.
That's also a kink, though.
I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Not even wrong.
Wouldn't the eggs disintegrate? Oh yeah, like her own pussy eggs would probably like the boiling hot cum would go into her egg to fertilize it, and then the egg would go and just fucking like burn alive from the inside. That actually, you know what? Maybe that's the reason only fire types could breed with Dittos. Because fire types would just kill anything that's not a water type or ice type. Actually, no, they'd kill ice types. They'd be dead as hell. You know, I'll give Justin props for not at all wavering in disgust. This man literally just could only sigh. He is a broken man. Nothing could break him.
No comment.
No comment. But I guess that's we ain't got much to say about this one, cause fucking gross. We'll be putting up the poll for next week's fanfiction voting shortly after this. I might stream another game. Well, not another game, but I might stream after this, cause constant content, baby. We're almost at 200. We actually just hit 180, so we're almost there. Remember, like and subscribe. Warn your friends of Fanfiction Fridays because they are no longer safe. They are awful. They will hurt you. Unless you're, I don't know, like Justin.
I hate being alive.
Don't we all? But once again, thank you, Julian, for the amazing backdrop here. I'm very glad you didn't draw Incineroar with a fucking fat cock. You at least gave him a modest bulge.
I was gonna give him like a giant black bar, but then I decided against it.
But and Tyler's astounding how do you say it? A gecko girl or whatever it is.
Ahiko.
Ahiko.
Tyler's Ahiko girl impression. Remember, stop stereotyping. Girls can have deep voices. I really ain't got much to say. We just gonna end it. Thank y'all for fucking bearing with this. I'm sorry if this hurts some of y'all. I didn't expect it to go this hard. I guess Julian from the past did warn us by saying, "Oh God, this is so awful." Thank you for those that bared with us live and suffered the pain. Remember, post in the poll to vote, and thank you for watching. I hate my life.